All right, well, welcome everyone. We are now reconvened from the recess we took yesterday. So we're on day 2 of our 2021 budget work sessions to receive and discuss departmental budget requests. We'll do a roll call now of council members present for our meeting this evening. Council members, please activate your microphones and indicate by voice that you are present when I call your name. Councilmember Deckard. Councilmember Deckard's not present. Councilmember Hawk.
Present.
Councilmember Iverson.
Here.
Councilmember McKim.
Here.
Councilmember Munson.
Here.
Councilmember Wiltz.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum and we'll continue with the agenda. So real quickly, as a housekeeping matter, I wanted to mention that we had several issues that came up last night for discussion that will require some additional research and calculations. I've asked our staff to add to Friday's agenda at the beginning of the meeting these different items that have and will continue to come up throughout the week. So just to clarify that we will address all of those matters on Friday, the final day of our budget sessions. I think last night I may have given some conflicting information to that regard. So my apologies for any confusion, but please stay tuned until Friday on that on those items. So our staff is going to keep a running tally of these things that we'll address or adjust on Friday. From last night, those included changes to Fund 1114-0166 Lit Special Purpose for the Youth Services Bureau, Fund 1175-0000 Misdemeanor, and Fund 1170-0380 Public Safety Lit Jail. If there are any members of council who have other items that need to be addressed that were not mentioned above, please forward those to Ms. Shell no later than this Friday at 10 a.m. So now we'll just do kind of a quick overview of the agenda tonight. We've got a variety of our terrific county departments that we'll be presenting tonight. So looking forward to all of these. We've got our treasurer's office first, prosecutor's office next, our recorder's office, extension services, the assessor's office, aviation department, the clerk's office, the planning department, surveyor's office, parks and recreations department as well. We'll finish everything up with them. So kind of a cornucopia of county departments tonight up for our consideration, and looking forward to all of that. We do have on our agenda an overview of revenue and expenditures, although I don't think that's going to be necessary tonight, given that we are still doing some research on the items I mentioned earlier. So if it's okay with everybody, we'll just not have that presentation this evening. Probably wouldn't be real helpful to the overall discussion at this point. And so now I think we can just go ahead and move into our first department, which is our treasurer's office. Treasurer Jessica McClellan is here with us tonight. Welcome, Ms. McClellan.
Council, good evening.
Good evening.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0003, General Fund, Treasurer. Personnel category $425,599, supplies category $3,800, services $52,275, capital 0, for a total budget of $481,674.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. McClellan. Feel free to provide any detail that you'd like.
If you don't mind, I have a really brief presentation of kind of what's been going on in the treasurer's office with some big numbers about tax collection that you might be interested in, and kind of give you a picture of where we are now and kind of just a few numbers from settlement.
Yeah,
So I'll just go into that
great.
first. So at spring settlement, we expected, based on our tax bills that we sent out, we wanted to collect we wanted to collect 75,300,000, and we collected 76,015,000. Compared to last year, 2019 spring settlement, we collected 82 million. So it was a little lower, and spring is always a windfall because a lot of people pay the full year. And then between settlement, when we did settlement, we sent to the units every dollar of taxes that we collected. We did not hold anything back. And then between settlement and the extended due date of July 10th, we collected $9,603,000. And on the books right now for taxes, we have collected 13 million in taxes compared to last year, where we had only collected 3 million in taxes by this time. So the other kind of list that we like to look at is our delinquent numbers. After the July due date, on July 11th, we had 14 million in delinquent property taxes. So that's delinquent from this spring, last fall, and the previous spring. As of today, we have only 4 million in delinquent taxes. And then just three more interesting numbers about those delinquencies is that of those delinquencies, it's made up of 3,583 parcels. So there's 3,500 individual parcels that make up that delinquency. About a third of them, the delinquency is under $100. And 75% of those delinquencies are under $1,000. And then 25% of that delinquency is in tax sale, and it's from the spring of 2019. So I think we're collecting really well, and I think that we are in a really good position for our fall tax collection.
Great.
So I will move on to the budget. We have our staff, pretty much exactly our same staff that we had last year. And then part-time, I'm at about 60%. I anticipate using almost all of that part-time this year. And then, let's see, office supplies, I have to be honest, I left it at 3,800. We don't really use that much. We use about 2,000 every year. So we can go back and change that, but it seemed kind of like nickel and diming it. I just left it the same. And then we have repairs and equipment. That's for our safe. The lock is over 100 years old, so it needs to be serviced. And then we have a lever opener that gets serviced. Dues, that's for the County Treasurers Association. That's as much as we need. It covers it almost exactly, and it's going to stay the same for next year. And then training and travel, I've only used $35 of that this year because of COVID. We haven't done much travel or training, and I've still been doing training with AIC because they have a lot of great COVID trainings, but that comes out of the elected officials training fund. So maintenance agreement, I use a lot of that for shredding. So we have a retention schedule for all of our many documents, and as the years pass, we have to shred a couple $1,000s worth of shredding in documents to make room for the new documents. And then here's the one that is kind of difficult this year. It's postage. So postage is probably going to increase next year, and I've already used 100% of my postage budget. I've been transferring from office supplies to cover postage this year. So postage is probably going to increase next year because there was not any increase this year, and because the post office has been just slammed this year. So that they're expecting an increase. My printer is expecting an increase. If I increase my postage for just the tax bills by 5 cents, it comes to $24,000. And, I've been told by the printer and looking online, I mean, you know, it's anybody's guess. It could be a 3 to 5 cent increase. So I went with a 5 cent increase. That would be $24,000 just for tax bills. And then I added the $2,000 I would need for our other mailings that we do throughout the year. And then $300 is because there is a lovely bank account for one of the RDC bonds that has a $300 fee. I would also be open to looking to pay this out of the line. I think it's the 2015 RDC bond. We may just be able to take it out of that and not put it in my budget. But I wanted to put it there because it does need to get paid and interest doesn't cover it. Bank accounts usually get interest, but this one has a really, really small balance because it's a principal and interest account. So we put our bond payment into that account and it immediately gets paid out to the bondholders. So it's making like, I feel like it's making like 3 cents of interest a month, and it would take like 10 years to cover this $300 fee. That is my quick and dirty rundown of my budget. I'm ready for questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. McClellan, for the presentation there. Great news on the tax collections. Thanks for that information as well, too. Sounds like things are going well. Any questions or comments, any discussion among council for our treasurer? I saw Ms. Wiltz's hand first and then Ms. Hawk.
Hi, Jessica. It's good to see you. I don't have any real issues at all with your budget. It was great, and the tax news is fun. I did wonder, though, if you could talk a little bit about postage and the need for continuing to do hard copy mailings versus electronic versions, and how you balance that and think about the options there.
Yes, I would be happy to talk about that. I'm even prepared with some good data on what we're doing. So we have e-billing available. In e-billing is waiving your paper bill and sending an email bill. And in state statute, the taxpayer is allowed to do that, but they have to do that. I can't force it on them. And so our e-billing numbers are this. There are about 1,500 registered users. Of those registered e-billing users, 390 users have waived their paper bill to get an email bill. And those 390 users account for 550 parcels. So most of those users have multiple parcels. So e-billing is not being used as much as it could be, should be. I wish it would be. We can send emails out to everyone. We can with reminders and all kinds of good stuff. So it's just, we've had it since I brought it in 2017, I think. And I mean, every mailing we send out, we're like, sign up for e-mailing, but it's just not very heavily.
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't think I've done it. So, you know, it's one of those things.
Well,
but for anybody who might be paying attention, it has to be initiated by the property owner. And
yes,
it's not something we can do except to try and get the word out.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Hawk.
Yes, I'm the liaison for the treasurer's office, and it's always a pleasure to work with Ms. McClellan on these budgets, because she certainly knows her budgets and knows what she's doing in her department. And so I just wanted to say that I thank you for making sure that you're getting things taken care of, even in times such as this. Could you send by email, oh, I like email, the numbers that you ran by us about your collections? I was trying to write some of that down, and I just would rather see it in writing so I can make sure I've got the right numbers. So if you could.
Yes, I will. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Iverson, did you have a question?
I did, yes. Ms. McClellan, thanks for being here. I'm also intrigued about the numbers that you shared at the beginning. That's quite interesting. You shared that in 2020, 76 million and some change has been brought in versus last year's $82 million. Can you explain to those watching or even those of us who are new why there's that discrepancy there, and does that cause you concern? Is this anything that you can attribute multiple factors or variables to?
Yes, I think it's directly attributable to COVID and the extended deadline. I think we would have had numbers very similar to last year's collection if the due date had stayed May 10th. And we had $4 million come in the 4 days around July 10th, the due date. We got $4 million in. So that right there would have brought us almost right back up to last year's numbers.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments for Treasurer McClellan? Yeah, Mr. McKim?
And how would taxpayers who are watching go and sign up for e-billing?
They would go to our website, the county's website, and then go to the treasurer's page. And there's a button right next to my face, I think, that says sign up for e-billing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Next to the face.
You're welcome.
So I've got a couple of questions. One related to the postage and the e-billing. I know that, well, maybe this is more of a comment than anything. I know that there are some firms that work with a lot of companies who would send out bills and things like that, and they would take care of trying to motivate the customers to sign up for e-billing so that the company could realize the savings through postage and that kind of thing. And so they charge a fee. I don't know who those are, but I know that they exist. Maybe it's worth exploring to see, what that would cost if we partnered with a vendor to do that type of service for us, and what the long-term savings would be. But I would be interested in that. I know that service exists. So something to maybe look into if it would result in some long-term savings for us. The other question I have is about the bank fee, and I don't want to spend too much time over $300, but is this something that is typical? Is this type of fee for this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Is this, I just missed one word.
The bank fee?
Is this something that is, typical?
Yeah.
Yes, this is very typical.
Okay. Got it. I didn't, if there was options out there that maybe would be, there's no fee associated with it. I didn't know if that would, if that existed or not, but sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the treasurer's general fund budget.
Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes?
Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Great. Thanks, Ms. McClellan.
Thank you.
And up next will be our prosecutor's office.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0009, General Fund Prosecutor. Personnel category $2,070,322. Supplies $11,500. Services $109,700. Capital $0. For a total budget of $2,191,522.
Second.
Great. So we have Monroe County Prosecutor Erica Oliphant with us, as well as Ms. Hamlin with the prosecutor's office. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So looking at our general fund, the most significant change, which we've brought up at the August council work session, is the request for an additional position, and that's a victim assistant. The Victim Assistance Program serves as the main point of contact with the prosecutor's office and the primary source of information for crime victims during the pendency of a case. If we can add a fourth victim assistant, we'll be able to provide more timely and thorough communications to victims, more opportunity for face-to-face interactions with victims that may drop by without an appointment, better service to victims of crime as a whole. As you may know, Victim Assistance Program does have statutory duties defined by Indiana Code. So we requested funding for this position in our VOCA grant application, which is Victims of Crime Act. And we based this request on increasing caseload numbers, and the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute agreed to partially fund this position. I can continue to explain our need for the position if the council would like, or would you prefer to just ask specific questions?
Yeah, I think any additional information that you have would be very much welcomed.
Sure. Okay. So victimization can be traumatic. Empowerment is perhaps the most effective means by which to alleviate trauma. And crime victims are empowered when they understand how the system works, how their case is being handled, what their rights are, and how and when they can participate in the process. So the Victim Assistance Program helps us empower victims.
One hot veggie white mocha. Hello, friends. Hello. Sorry about that line.
Sorry.
And now you're free of it. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So victim assistant duties are defined by statute under Indiana Code 35-40-6-4. Basically, they inform crime victims of constitutional and statutory rights, court hearing dates, and any continuances of those dates and disposition of cases. They meet with victims or family members to tour the courtrooms, explain the justice system, answer questions, review case status, and familiarize them with the Indiana Violent Crime Compensation Fund. They build rapport with victims and family members in order to gain trust, promote healing, and ensure cooperation with pending cases. They attend depositions and court hearings with the victims to offer support. They assess needs and help develop safety plans, make referrals to outside agencies where appropriate. They identify barriers to victims' participation in criminal cases, such as lost wages, transportation difficulties, language barriers, and dependent care, and work to address those barriers. Throughout the day, they respond to numerous telephone calls, emails, and walk-ins. They also coordinate and attend meetings to confer with the assigned prosecutor in each case. So we found ourselves having an increased need because felony filings have increased about 34% over the past 4 years, and felony cases often require more intensive services by victim assistants. In domestic violence and other violent offenses, the victim assistant has to safety plan with the victims quickly, as a lot of defendants are released to pretrial release at their initial hearing. Currently, the individual caseloads are unmanageably high. One victim assistant in our office has 803 cases. One has 541. And the third, who has the higher level cases, such as homicide, aggravated battery, and rapes, has 154 cases. So, like I said, if we can add a fourth VA, it'll help us make sure that we are meeting our statutory duties and provide better customer service to our victims. The grant that we were approved for, the funding available is $16,585. We could have started drawing that down in September, but we wanted to follow, the budget process and get it on for January of 2021. So we expect that this is going to cost, and this is based on a 3-year hire, this is going to cost about $41,971 additional dollars.
Very good. Thank you. So we'll turn it over to council now. Any questions or discussion? on the prosecutor's general fund budget? Yeah, Ms. Munson, yes.
Yes, Ms. Oliphant, I just couldn't track how you got to 41,000 increased cost. Could you explain that, because the new position is budgeted at $24,085.
Got it. Okay. So basically the salary for the position based again on a 3-year hire, which we may just get a new person who's not had 3 years of experience, but
Okay.
the salary would be $39,094. The health, dental, and life insurance would be $10,500. FICA would be $3,000.
Okay, benefits.
Yes,
It's
benefits. Benefits are in there. Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Any other questions? Mr. Iverson?
Ms. Alton, thank you for being here. And I'm just so happy to hear the talk about using an empowerment model. I think your office is doing a great job and really a beacon in Indiana. So I really appreciate you bringing forward those numbers, especially the caseloads. It's you had brought those to us previously, and I think it's good for the community to hear that as well, that there's just this great need that's existing. So I thank you for bringing that forward. I did have a question on the case management tech specialist. That's the line directly above the victim assistance systems. What exactly does that role do?
Okay, so our tech specialist is a multifaceted position. He does a lot of our body camera. As you may know, most police agencies here locally now use body-worn cameras. And so a large part of his job is coordinating with law enforcement agencies to get the digital media that we need for prosecuting cases. He also assists with processing evidence, such as if a cellular telephone would have evidence on it. He has the capability of downloading the contents of that cell phone and processing that. He also helps us with jury trials and other hearings to make sure that our visual presentations are functioning, that our digital media is all, sometimes we have to edit out certain things that aren't permitted by evidence rules. He helps with that. Yeah, he's got a lot of different jobs. I would say that they are all mostly dealing with digital media and computers.
That person doesn't do case management, or do they do a little bit of case management too?
So his origins, the particular person in this job, was as a case manager over in our child support division. And so he does sometimes provide that kind of support as needed, but he doesn't have a full-time case management caseload.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we will do a roll call vote to accept the prosecutor's general fund budget.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0660, General Fund Child Support. Personnel, $1,111,163. Supplies, $4,000. Services, $45,938. Capital, $0, for a total budget of $1,161,101.
Second.
All right.
All right. Oh, sorry. So the only changes that have been made to this budget from the 2020 budget are those that were specified in the council's budget letter.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments on the child support budget? Yes, Mr. McKim.
Remind me of what percentage of this is reimbursed from Title 4D?
I may have to ask Ms. Hamlin to help me with that, but we do get 30% of our executive director salary reimbursed from the Child Support Bureau, and 30% of the tech specialist and the office administrator salaries.
But in total, we get 66% of the entire budget reimbursed. It's a little over 66%.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was really high. Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote to accept the prosecutor's office general fund child support budget.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard. Oh yeah,
No.
sorry, I forgot. Not present. Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1155-0000 extradition. Personnel, $1,219. Supplies, services, capital, all zero, for a total budget of $1,219.
Second.
All right, so this is the fund that we use if we have folks who are wanting our warrant who end up out of our jurisdiction and we need to bring them here to answer the charges. We have not asked for any changes in this budget from 2020.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Ms. McKim?
Actually, it does look like there's a
It does.
reduction.
Mhm.
So there is a change. I want to make sure that's not accidental.
It's a small
Yeah,
reduction.
We're fine with the reduction.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Yes, that's an intentional reduction. Thank you.
And that's based on revenue projections. The revenues just aren't coming in.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments?
I do actually.
Yes.
Just more, I have a curiosity kind of question. So in the last budget, which was the child support one, there was an extradition line with a whole bunch of money in it. I mean, relative to the 1,000. So obviously different types of cases, I'm guessing, right? Because child support versus.
There's actually a much larger line in our county general fund for extraditions. It used to be that we would pay a lot more out of this extradition fund, but as revenues have dried up, we've moved reimbursement for extraditions into county general for the most part. This fund mainly is used if a local law enforcement, say there's someone in Illinois and it's less expensive to have reserve deputies or sheriff's deputies go get them, then we pay the overtime out of this line for those types of extraditions. We often can't afford to pay those out of this either, and we pay them out of the regular extradition fund. This is just sort of almost a dormant fund, but it's not completely dormant, so we keep it active.
Because you've got revenue coming in. At least
Some revenue, yeah, limited revenue coming in.
Okay.
I think the projection was 1,500. I don't have my 33A right in front of me, but.
Okay.
There is a difference between child support cases and criminal cases. And I think the biggest difference is that for child support, we get that 66% reimbursement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we will have a roll call vote to accept the prosecutor's office extradition budget.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1170-0009, Public Safety Lit Prosecutor. Personnel, $107,468. Supplies, services, capital, all zero, for a total budget of $107,468.
Right,
Second.
so, oh, sorry. I got too fast, got ahead of myself. The Public Safety Lit Fund we use primarily to pay the other half of our STOP grant positions. So the only change we've asked for is for the domestic violence deputy prosecutor to have a raise based on the fact that she's achieved 8 years of service with the county.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments? Public safety lit budget. All right, well, I do not have any myself either, so we'll do a roll call vote to accept the prosecutor's office public safety lit budget.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Great.
Council,
Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I move to open for discussion and review Fund 2503-0000, diversion user fees. Personnel, $127,407. Supplies, $200. Services, $20,300. Capital, $5,000, for a total budget of $152,907.
Second.
All right, so this is our fund that's based on diversion user fees. We only made a few minor changes, reducing a few of the supply lines. We anticipate that we will end the 2020 year in the black. However, we have had some reduced revenues. I think partially due to COVID-19, you know, we had less misdemeanors and lower level felonies filed that would be eligible for pretrial diversion. It's difficult for us to accurately predict what the revenues are going to be moving forward. So we've gone ahead and left our requests in terms of salary the same, but you know, just wanted to give the council a heads up that we may run into revenue issues in 2021.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McKim?
I think Counselor Hawk and Ms. Hamlin and I may be about the only ones left who remember the tumultuous history of this fund. I think you know, we're certainly glad to see that you'll be able to end in the black with you know, with revenues as they are. You know, so those of us who have been around a while remember that this fund for a while carried the burden of a large number of prosecutor's office staff. It really didn't have anything to do with the pretrial diversion fund, and took a lot of years of work and patience on the part of Ms. Hamlin to get this accomplished. But I'm glad we have. I do wonder if Ms. Oliphant, you could just take a moment to kind of describe what kinds of offenses are divertible.
Sure. So prosecutor-led diversion is done pursuant to statute. I'm sorry to say I don't have that exact code site right in front of me, but we essentially it allows for diversion of certain kinds of cases up through level 5 felonies. So here in Monroe County, we divert a large number of misdemeanor cases. So we get a lot of illegal consumption or possession of alcohol, possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia, some theft, shoplifting cases, disorderly conduct sometimes. We also do up through level 6 felony possession of methamphetamine or cocaine or heroin, as well as syringes. But these are primarily folks who are just coming into contact with the criminal justice system for the first time. The program has a component that is meant to reduce recidivism. We do an education class if it's a minor offense like a possession of marijuana or illegal consumption. They do a 7-hour class on alcohol and drug education with the Monroe County Probation Department. If it's a shoplifting, they will do some restorative justice programming with the CJAM. They do a shoplifting and theft education program. So we try to gear the requirements to filling the need that brought the person into the criminal justice system. And then if they successfully complete the program, their case is dismissed. So it diverts a lot of cases from the regular court docket. They essentially get identified at the moment of charging as being eligible. And most people end up signing up within the next 6 weeks without going to court and seeing a judge.
Thank you.
Great. Do you happen to have numbers of, from year to year, how many participants are being diverted? I know that's kind of out of the blue.
I don't have it in front of me right now. Beth, do you happen to have it?
I might be able to calculate it pretty quickly.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
And if you can get back to me later if that's.
In 2019, I would estimate about 900 people went through the pretrial diversion. That does not include the infraction diversion, which is a similar program for mostly traffic offenses. But the misdemeanors, probably about 900 people.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Iverson?
I want to follow up on that question, and I want to. I don't know if you have the answer to this, but I think it's very interesting to know whether or not you've been able to isolate any factors that lead to causation. Like, do we know that diversion reduces recidivism in this county? Do we know that diversion has other positive benefits, like in this county? Can we quantify that? Have you quantified that?
We don't keep stats on it in the same way that, say, the drug treatment court or the other problem-solving courts do. And I think one reason we don't do that statting is because it's not a grant-funded program. So I'm not sure that I could provide data to help you with that, but I can say that just anecdotally, a lot of these folks don't come back into the system. Some do, of course, but a lot of them.
Recidivism rates are down.
I seem to recall there being a stat, and again, this is just off the top of my head, that of people going through pretrial diversion, something like 98% of them aren't seen again. But I don't want to say 98% for sure, but it's in the 90s. Like it's not common for us to see them again. Now, granted, a lot of them are just passing through for 4 years through town, and I don't know that they show up in another community, but I do think it is a helpful program that diverts a lot of people out of the system.
Yeah, I can see what we've got in terms of PDP stats for you all.
Yeah, that would be really great.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the diversion user fees budget? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the prosecutor's office diversion user fees budget.
Counselor Welts?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All
Okay,
right,
so
thank
Great.
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
that
Can I just take 1 second to thank Kim Shell? These spreadsheets are really helpful and have made the process a lot easier for me. And I just want to thank you.
Well, yes.
Yay for Kim.
We appreciate them as
You're
well.
welcome. I appreciate that.
Well, that
Oh, it's
concludes.
different
Yeah.
from when we used to do it all by hand and people
Oh, and paper.
sitting in
Oh,
all on the bench doing all of the updates with
yeah.
adding machines and all of that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Long way.
Appreciate everything that you all do. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, likewise. Good luck with budgets.
Thanks. Okay, up next is our recorder's office. We have Monroe County Recorder Eric Schmitz joining us tonight, and I believe Chief Deputy of the Recorder's Office, Ashley Craner. Welcome. And we'll have Ms. Wiltz read a motion first here before we get started.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0004, General Fund Recorder. Personnel category, $309,027. Supplies, services, and capital categories, 0, for a total budget of $309,027.
Second.
Well, good evening. I guess it's still technically afternoon. Who knows? Well, our as usual, our budget request is pretty much entirely salary, and that's pretty much it. And I was looking over I've been looking over this, and I think the first thing that pops out is that we're asking for less this year by close to $10,000. Yeah, $10,000 under last year. And
The new hires or what?
we have 2 new hires that replaced a 1-year and a 3-year. We also have 26 pay periods as opposed to 27. So it seems that makes a difference. Longevity was not, there's not an amount for longevity for 2020, and I'm not sure why that's left off, but it's that's another $2,000. And of course, we have a corresponding drop in payroll tax and perf for those.
Okay, thank you. And TSD, I believe we need to get Ms. Craner, Ashley Craner, activated for video and audio, please, as a panelist. Mr. McKim?
Yes, I was wondering if you could just talk for a minute about what activity has been like or what business has been like post-COVID.
We have been running full tilt since COVID. We are recording considerably more documents on average per day than we have been before. For example, our typical average recording number of documents per day was somewhere between 70 and 90 on average, sometimes higher, sometimes not quite so much. We have been recording regularly well over 100 documents a day. We are the most open we are the most open office in the courthouse, in that we have the most by far and away the most traffic from members of the public coming in. Mostly our title researchers, but also just people that need to get their documents recorded, their deeds, their DBAs. People are opening home-based businesses, and we've had lots and lots of doing business as forms.
So that's interesting. It's not just refinancing mortgages. It's other things as well.
We're definitely getting refinancing mortgages. But yes, there's a lot going on, and the searchers, I mean, they've been desperate to get in here, from the time that we were completely closed to the public. This is the library, and people need to get the information that's at the library, and so they were practically beating down our doors, and so and still, even so, we're able to have 3 people in here at a time for searching, and then we try to keep it at 1 person up at the counter, although once in a while we'll have a second person, and we're able to keep social distance at the counter during those times. But yeah, that's
Thank you.
Ms. Munson and then Mr. Iverson.
Thank you, Mr. Schmitz. It's good to hear how you've been operating, but I have one basic question, and that is, have you been able to meet the public's need for recording?
We have been able to keep up. It's on some days it is a struggle, especially if we have someone who's out sick with non-COVID related symptoms. We haven't had anybody out for anything COVID related. But on days that, there was one day where both Ashley and I were in a virtual conference all day, and we had a person that was out. And so there were 2 people here in the office. And that was a real struggle. There's no way that 2 people here at once can get through a typical day's work here. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay.
So you get 1 person down, and it makes a big difference.
Right. So, is the public making appointments for specific times and days to come to your office?
Yes, they are. We have a Outlook calendar that we share with the entire staff can see. We add appointments in this calendar so that we can see how many people that are searching using computers, and how many people, hopefully no more than 1, having appointments at the counter. And that is also shared with Dina from the commissioner's office, who is basically guarding the door, the door to the courthouse, sits just inside for 3 days a week. And she is able to see our calendar and check people in and, get their temperatures and all that stuff. And she's really been, she kind of takes the heat of, people who come up to the door and want to get in, and they're not taking no for an answer, and she has to just, put her foot down and say, no, you're not coming in here. And I think she deserves a lot of credit.
Other duties as assigned.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Councilor Spoonmore had to step away for a second. Are there any other questions for Mr. Schmitz? Peter.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Schmitz. I know you and I have talked a little bit recently, and you're also doing a lot of digitizing documents.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? What exactly is going on there, and where can the public see documents that have been digitized?
Okay. First of all, any recorded document that we have in our database, which means that it's been digitized, can be accessed through online through a website called DocsPop. It's DoxPop.com, and there is a paywall. You have to have an account. You have to have payment information included, so that when you do want to purchase a copy of a document, they have your payment information. And And that allows them to charge the customer, and then they pass our copy fee on to us. So that's there. I have been working basically after hours a lot of days to scan our grantor and grantee indexes. What that means is that documents are typically looked up, especially property records are looked up according to, who's granting the property or who's granting the interest in the property and who is being granted that property or interest in the property. That's the number one way that these are looked up. So these index records will be made available on DocsPop for no additional cost to any registered user at DocsPop. You'd still have to have an account, you still have to have payment information, but you can go in there and pull up our many of our index books. In fact, in a few minutes, I'm going to be doing a bit more to get quite a few books that have already been scanned. I've probably scanned, I'd say 50 to 60 or maybe more of these big, thick books and then put online. So yes, that
sounds like a lot.
That is coming along. Yeah, and that's me being here until 6. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments for the recorder's office? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote to accept the recorder's office general fund budget.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wells,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1160-0000, Identification Security Protection. Personnel category 0, supplies 0, services $10,500, capital 0, for a total budget of $10,500.
Second.
Okay, this fund is flat from last year. It is basically it can only be used for one thing, which is essentially our recording software, and particularly the component that does redaction of social security numbers, driver's license numbers, that kind of thing. So it cannot be used for anything else, although it can be transferred over into our perpetuation fund to pay for, but still to pay for the software. So that's really what it is being spent on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments on the identification security protection budget? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote to accept the budget.
Yes, listen.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor McKim, sorry. Counselor
Yes.
Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Sorry. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1217-0000 County Elected Officials Training. Personnel, supplies, capital, all at zero. Services, $30,000 for a total budget of $30,000.
Second.
All right, well, this is another one of those funds that the appropriation request is flat. The 30,000 last year, 30,000 this year. You can see that that the county has spent 10,400 of that. And this is a fund that is available to 5 elected officials' departments. And so we pay, our revenues go into this fund that pays for training for auditors, treasurers, clerks, recorders, and surveyors. And as of, I believe, last year, this fund can be used not only for the elected official themselves, but also for their chief deputies and other department personnel as needed. So they opened that up, which is great for a county like ours because, you know, we have these reserves and revenues that obviously far outstrip the actual use of the funds. So, you know, traditionally we just spent a small portion of this fund. Now we are able to cover more training for more people in more departments. Well, not in more departments, the same departments, but more training for more people. In fact, I believe the current balance of the elected official training fund is $75,731.20. So the reserves in this fund are really quite flush. Put it that way.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Wells?
Is then, and you might have said this, I was trying to take notes. Is it still restricted to just those 5 departments?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, but you can have other people within those departments.
Right.
Cool.
So our revenues can fund the training for as many of the staff as they can do.
Cool. Very good. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Kim?
Now, it sure would be nice if other elected officials could like council and commissioners could use that for their training as well. That's something we ought to keep putting a bug in the ear of our General Assembly representatives if they change this legislation again. It definitely helped a lot to allow staff as well as the elected official, but still they ought to expand the scope a little bit.
I can see that.
Councilmember Hawk?
Yes, the very helpful thing this year is that the AIC is having their virtual, the conference virtually and offering a lot of training there. And it doesn't have to be in the daytime. Someone must do it on their own. And I encourage all county employees and elected officials to participate in that because the county is paying just one charge. Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, anybody can use that in county government. And that's time to get a lot of additional training. They do a great job.
Absolutely. I agree, they do. And I would point out that the sessions will be available recorded once they're run. So every person who attends this virtual conference will have access to every one of the presentations. There will be 10 presentations, 10 sessions, and you can do all of them at your leisure after either live when it's happening, or you can watch the recordings afterwards, and that's open to everybody. In fact, as far as I understand, that's for anybody in the county. That's not anybody. If you've ever been to the AIC conference, you know that you're limited in which sessions you can go to because they'll have 2 or 3 of them going at the same time.
Right.
That's not going to be a limitation this year.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I love learning something new.
Yes.
Pop the popcorn.
Turn the video off.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the Recorder's Office elected officials training budget.
Counselor Wilkes,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Great.
Thank
And
you
that
very
will,
much.
yes, thank you. And that will conclude all of our budgets for the Recorder's Office this evening. Thank you, Mr. Schmitz. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0011 General Fund Extension. Personnel category, $118,268. Supplies, $7,736. Services, $135,137. Capital, $0, for a total budget of $261,141.
Second.
Great. So we have Extension Services Director Amy Thompson with us here tonight. Welcome, Ms. Thompson.
Good evening, everybody. So our budget, we have some small changes in personnel due to a retirement and moving an employee around, and then we're in the process of hiring a new education assistant. The rest of our budget is basically flat. The office supplies, educational supplies, a lot of this is going to revert back this year. A lot of our activity, of course, was changed due to COVID-19 with the cancellation of the in-person fair. So a lot of that money will go back, but given that we don't know what 2020 holds, we decided to basically request the same amounts for things like office supplies, educational supplies. A lot of travel and training will go back as well. The big number, contractual services, the majority of that number is the contract between Purdue University and Monroe County that covers the staffing of this office with extension educators. The remainder, which I believe is $1,700 and change, is a contract for our postal meter. The Citizens Academy, I am planning on pulling that together as a lunchtime opportunity. Yet this fall moved a little slower because I've had some family health issues that I've been dealing with, but that is going to happen, although we will not have expenses associated with it because it'll be a virtual offering. So that's a quick overview of our budget. Happy to take any questions.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Thompson.
Mhm.
Are there any questions or comments from Council, Mr. McKim? And then
Not
Ms.
really,
Munson?
not a question, just a comment that I'm very excited you're going to be doing the virtual Citizens Academy. I think that's a great way to soldier on in the face of COVID, and it might having a lunch meeting might get a different different people than you might ordinarily get in an evening program. So that's great.
Yes, I agree. I do think we'll attract a different crowd and hopefully a larger crowd also. So.
And for our TSD staff, Councilmember Deckard is
Already
needed to
joined.
be. Great, thank you. Who was next? Ms. Munson.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I too am very excited to hear that the Citizens Academy is going to be presented again to the community. I tell people about this who have questions about how county government works, and I hope you have a good attendance for this. I did have a question that is not directly related to a line in the budget, but I think is important for the public to know, and that is to what extent is funding coming from Purdue University toward the Extension Office or from the state of Indiana?
Right. So the cooperative, our budget is called Extension Services for county budget purposes, but our formal name is Purdue Cooperative Extension Service of Monroe County. The cooperative part of our name comes from the fact that funding does come from federal, state, and local levels. Most federal funding does stay on campus, although research projects that receive federal funding are occasionally implemented here on a local level. And then within the state budget, there is a specific line item in the state budget that funds extension educators. So that, like I said, it's 116. I can't remember the exact contract number, and I apologize for not having it up. My desktop locked up on me. But the Purdue contract is around $116,000. That includes 3 full-time educator positions, all at the master's level. So, you know, if you divide that into personnel, what a normal wage for an average wage would be, you're getting, it's about 50-50. Sorry, I'm mumbling on here, but a significant portion of the funding for the extension staff that are here does come from the state level run through Purdue University. When you include benefits, because our benefits come from Purdue. So I can get you a better numerical answer, Cheryl, if you'd like. I'm happy to do.
I don't need the details, but I want the public to appreciate that this is not Monroe County acting on its own, but the state and the federal government too supporting our extension operation.
Yes, that's correct. It's a different model than most departments for sure. So it is something that I do frequently explain to folks. So
and those other department directors are envious of you having other sources of funds like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wiltz and then Councilmember Hawk.
I just wanted to hear you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done in addition to the Citizens Academy with having to adapt to not being able to have in-person education, because that's what extension's always been about.
Right,
So
and definitely
the world like.
Right, I definitely miss the personal interaction. You know, we have over 200 volunteers that help get work done within the community for us. A large portion of those volunteers are 4-H volunteers. They're have held virtual club meetings throughout the spring. Within our own office and our office staff, we pivoted very quickly to delivering virtual programs. We had a Master Gardener training program in process last spring when COVID hit, and converted that to an online program within a week. We offered a gardening series that was advertised on a regional basis, 6 sessions. I think we had upwards of 300 people registered for that. We've done some American Citizen, we hosted an American Citizen Planner training program, and we had 3 Monroe County individuals involved in that program. We've hosted on local government programming, opioid and methamphetamine programming, how to cook in your air fryer, all kinds of virtual opportunities that are recorded. They're not necessarily posted to our website, but if folks are looking for a recording, and that's because we have not had time to get closed captioning put on those videos and accessibility issues. But, you know, we always have lots of resources available, whether those are videos or printed material or whatever the case may be. And we've certainly continued to accept samples, whether those are digital samples of insects, plant disease problems, or we've coordinated quite well with a drop-off pickup box, you know, where people can leave things for me to look at, or, you know, I can leave materials for folks to pick up, that kind of thing. So I don't feel like we've slowed down at all.
Yeah, great. Well, that's really good. That's great to hear, because it's an important source of community information.
Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Hawk, do you have a question?
Trying to keep it off for my dog. I just want to say how much I appreciate the availability of being able to get information about when's the best time to plant a tree, or when to put what out on your lawn, or just all kinds of just practical information that people seem to think they have to pay somebody to come and talk to them about it, when it's free right there. And it's important that we know this, because, for instance, I wanted to have my yard treated, and if it's, oh no, this is not time, I go onto the site and it's going, yes, this is the time. It was like right when the forsythia is blooming, and that's what the website said. Yes. And I'm thinking, these people know more about this, so I'm going to take their word for it. I mean, there's so much there, and I just want to make sure people know that, get that word out, because that's part of what you're providing. This is not just 4-H, although 4-H is perfect for me. I love 4-H and the fair.
Right. We're not trying to sell anyone anything. You know, the information that we provide is evidence-based information, really developed at Purdue or other land-grant universities that we're passing on. So, you know, we're as impartial as you can get, and just trying to provide the best information possible to folks. And it's doing that, helping folks. I think we're all in this business because we enjoy doing that. So we look forward to that interaction, whether it's virtual or, you know, hopefully someday in person again.
And we're all looking forward to that, for sure. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we are ready now to do a roll call vote to accept Extension Services General Fund budget, please.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Wills?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0008, General Fund Assessor. Personnel, $779,409. Supplies, services, and capital, 0, for a total budget of $779,409.
Second.
Great. So we have joining us tonight, Monroe County Assessor Judy Sharp. Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Sharp. It says we have Lisa Surface on the agenda as well.
No, she's not here. No, I can handle it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. And I have to thank your council office. I don't have Zoom down in my office, so I come up here to use yours. And so Kim has been very gracious to share. Maybe one of these days I'll get it down there, you think? But anyway, thank you all. It's always a pleasure to see all of you. Trent, I'm glad you're there this evening. Anyway, any questions? My budget is the general fund budget is exactly what you ask us to put in there. The only changes that we had to make in there, we had a 1-year bump and we corrected some job titles, but it didn't affect the bottom line. So our bottom line is a little bit less than it was last year. Of course, it's only 26 pays, and that's about it for me on the general fund.
Great. Any questions for Assessor Sharp on her general fund budget? Yes, Mr. McKim.
Well, I guess it's not exactly general fund budget, but I was just wondering if Ms. Sharp wanted to make any comments on the net assessed values that you sent out. Anything in particular we should pay attention to?
They were pretty amazing, weren't they?
Yes.
When you looked at it. I didn't bring them up with me. I thought I had them memorized. Was it something like we increased by 6 point some odd percent, Jeff?
Yeah, overall. Yes, overall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wow. I've listened to other people, and I want to assure you guys, this has been the busiest year the assessors have had probably ever. Nothing has slowed down in my office. We didn't miss a beat. We're here every day, business as usual, because when this all hit, my Form 11s went out about the same time, and it was a perfect storm. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I figured I had to send a letter, and you saw, if you all got a Form 11 from me, you saw the letter when I had to explain COVID has no relationship to the assessment for this year. If COVID is going to impact us, it'll show up next year. So I explained all of that, and I have to tell you, I have never had such a reaction from the taxpayers. No one's ever been mean to my staff and me. Every once in a while we get upset people, but it's not horrible. People were so just happy that we were working, and they were so appreciative that we were there answering the phones, that business as usual was going on. And of course, in that letter, I included my phone number, my staff's phone numbers, the emails, and people took advantage of that. And so the AV is what it is. That was all because of last year's construction and trending. You all, one of the things, and we'll get into it in the next budget line, is the sales disclosure. I honestly thought we would see a slowdown with COVID. No, not at all. I'm sure you all look at the paper every Monday. I think that's what sells the HT, is Monday's paper is our sales disclosure. You're seeing full pages, and that's done weekly. I want you to understand that's not something we're setting aside and they get it every once in a while. We send that once a week to them. When we started this whole thing years ago with the sales disclosures, I had a part-time sales disclosure clerk, and she did other things. I now have 2 full-time clerks. That's all they do, all day long, 5 days a week. And then I also have at least 2 other people, maybe 3, sometimes Lisa helps, 3 people helping out with that. It is such a job. And the cool thing is within a few days of the whole COVID thing and having to shut down and shutting the courthouse down and not really know how we were going to operate, one of the things that I had never done was put my sales disclosures. You couldn't file online. They brought their sales disclosures, the title companies brought them into us that way. But we decided that we had to go into Simple File. And Eric has the same program, the recorder. And so the Simple File people came into virtually came into the office and installed Simple File. And it took my staff a couple of days to learn the program. And everybody started using it. Our two title companies are especially diligent using that. And it made such a difference because that was the only thing that was not totally online in my office. I have not had, wish there was some wood to knock on here, I haven't had one complaint about not having the office open. Everything we do is online. You all know that. You can get onto anything you want to see and it's right there. Now we have the sales disclosure product where you can file your sales disclosures. And you have to understand, that's just the beginning of the process. The reason my deputies have to work so hard, every sales disclosure that is filed, we refile all of these and data enter every one of them to the state daily. And this is part of the process of them tracking. It's how we set values, and this is the trending, and this is what sets our values. The other thing that you saw a 6% increase. A lot of the reason for that is our sales are just astronomical. People, and this is the truth. People are putting their homes on the market and they're selling them within the same day. They have 2 or 3 or 4 offers.
10.
It's 10?
10
I know.
On the last sale I made.
Yeah, it's crazy. You might put it on, let's just pull a number. You might put it on for 200 and before the day's over, somebody's going to offer you 250 for that same house and you're okay, sold. It's just crazy. It's good crazy for us. And so how COVID is going to affect this market, it's not affecting the residential market at this point that we're seeing at all. And this is now I've already rolled my new values to the auditor for 21, pay 22. Yeah, something like that. So I've already done all of that. That's all in and that's what you're seeing, that 6%. So you're not going to see any decrease as far as appeals go in that 6% based on residential. I don't have very many commercial appeals. So the commercial people have not started filing. It's the same old people, Menards, Lowe's, my frequent flyers, as I call them. And they're going to appeal no matter what happens. So I don't worry about them. The apartment complexes have not started appealing yet. And that's my biggest fear is if we don't get back to some sort of normal, that we're going to see the apartments lose revenue. And of course, everything is based on income when you get into that kind of stuff. And so that's why I spoke to all of you when this all first started to be very careful with the budget, because right now it looks awesome. But if when I send out my Form 11s next March, like I always do, and that's when I'm going to see, I think the commercial that are the bread and butter of this community. The restaurant industry, who has been so terribly impacted, they don't usually own their buildings. So it's a landlord. So that hasn't started hitting me yet. So, this is so uncertain. I can tell you that new construction has not slowed down one iota. It's crazy. We're having as much new construction this year as we had last year, if not more. You can just drive around everywhere. And I'm talking about residential. It's everywhere being built. We have such and Marty can attest to that, we didn't have much of a stockpile of residential property. And we still need in the 200,000 range. That is the average house cost in Monroe County right now, about 268,000. That's the average. I never thought I'd see those figures. I can't even believe we're calling that an average cost. So affordable housing, it's not happening right now. So anyway, all of that kind of stuff has kept us hopping. I'm really pleased with the assessment that we were able to turn in this year. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of man hours, and it's also staying on top of the sales and the trending. The other thing that we did, and I'm sure a lot of the taxpayers know this, we went in and raised land all over the county. Our land was the building to land ratio on residential wasn't working, and I have to do a ratio study every year, and the state does it. And they had already warned me a couple of years ago that, Judy, you got to do something about land. It's too low. There has to be a ratio between the two. So we made a real effort, and I'm sure a lot of you saw your land really raise. Your land raised, but maybe your structures went down a little bit. But at the bottom line, it's still bottom line. It has to be what you would sell your home for in today's market. A lot of people don't understand that. One of our biggest challenges is people that have lived in a house, well, since day one, 1950s and 60s, and we still have a lot of those people. And they say, well, it only cost me $17,000. Well, I'm sorry, but it's worth $300,000 today. And they don't understand that. And that's what we do. But anyway, so great. That was probably the biggest growth we have seen in years, the 6% plus. Right now, I'm seeing the same growth for next year. But next year, we still don't know what's going to happen with the business community. And I'm really talking about the mom and pop, the real people, and not the chains. Right here around the square, we're seeing a lot of empty buildings. So we're gonna have to see what's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, we will we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote to accept the assessor's office general fund budget.
Yes. Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1131-0000 Sales Disclosure. Personnel, $17,188. Supplies, 0. Services, $15,000. Capital, 0. For a total budget of $32,188.
Second.
Okay, we kind of talked about this. I think it was a couple of years ago, at least, when you all asked me to take one of my sales disclosure deputies and pay part of their salary out of sales disclosure, which is totally legal and can be done. So that's why you see this one deputy that I have that gets paid a little bit out of sales disclosure and then the other part out of general fund. And so the only change from last year was just the increase in that salary line plus benefits because their benefits also is figured there. So you see a little increase, and that's all it is.
All right. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the assessor's sales disclosure budget.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1224-0000 reassessment. Personnel category $80,738. Supplies $8,000. Services $680,000. Capital $10,000 for a total budget of $778,738.
Second.
Okay, this is the big one. Well, it's actually $1,000 less than general fund. This is where everything happens in the office. This is our training, our certifications, and our all of our software and services and the vendors that we have to have. The only thing that changed here is I had to increase the level 3. I have another staff member that hopefully at the end of this year will achieve his level 3. It's been quite a challenge. The state has quit teaching anything right now. They haven't been back to work since this all started, and we haven't had any conferences. So we're going to have to go through IAAO, which is the International Assessing Association. And I'm going to send, they don't have to send them, they can do them online. I'm going to have Daniel complete his level 3 that way. So he'll have no trouble, and he will be a level 3. That will make 5 of us now with level 3. I might do one more, but that will be enough in the office. And of course, everybody else is level 2. Then the postage, I'm afraid it could go up a little bit. This year, I actually used more postage than normal because of the letter that I put in the mailing for the Form 11, and that increased the postage cost. And I know that next year I'll probably end up putting another letter to explain to people whatever's going on. And but the other thing, of course, is increased support and maintenance for Xsoft, and Xsoft is our computer program that we do everything with. And I think, I cannot swear to this, but this is the first real increase since we've gone with Xsoft. So it's been a good deal for us for years and years, and it still is. We still are paying a lot less than we ever paid with the other companies, but their maintenance fees had to go up a little bit. So that's that is the increase that you see from 765. 355 to 778, 738. Oh, and by the way, I know Jeff's going to ask this question. Usually he's like, how much do you have left? I have almost all of it left. As you know, we pay all of these bills in December. So it looks like we have a lot of money, but it'll all go right out in December.
All right. Thank you for that information. Any questions or comments from council members for the assessor on the reassessment budget? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote to accept the budget.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Not present.
Counselor,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry.
it's okay. Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
Sorry. Okay, we are moving on to aviation. Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1107-0000. Personnel category, $625,168. Supplies, $72,750. Services, $336,700. Capital, $78,000, for a total budget of $1,112,618.
Second.
All right, we have Mr. Laverty with us. Welcome, sir. We need to get him unmuted. There we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to use a different audio setup here. How about now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Switched from the phone to the computer. It wasn't working for me. But good evening tonight. And the airport is presenting a flat budget, same dollar for dollar as last year's budget. The only change, of course, is the personnel by request of the council. Still slightly slower due to the decrease in pay periods, but it is no increase, of course, for obvious reasons. And if anybody has any specific questions for me, I'd be glad to help as much as I can. We should have Amy Garst on board tonight as well, but I'm here for you.
Yeah, it looks like we have Ms. Garst on the line as well. Mr. McKim, I saw your hand first, and then Mr. Iverson.
So it looks like you don't have the vehicle purchase, and so you distributed the same amount of capital budget among a couple of other expenses in the capital category. All right.
That is correct. We do expect in 2021 to have an increase in the need for seed and fertilizer. We have an agreement with the farmers who lease the property, the ag fields on airport property. We have an agreement with them to for basically a big fertilization that has to occur next year. So that's one of the needs. And then also we were looking at some enhanced air traffic control equipment. If we have an upcoming expenditure where we're going to have to, it might happen as early as next year, replace the radios in the control tower. So that is the reason for that.
Any idea when we'll ever go to online drone authorization?
No, and the FAA is not really playing nice when it comes to that. There's very little information I can get on when we can go to that new Lance system, I think that you're referencing. We get a lot of requests for it, and it would make life easier for us and the tower manager at the airport as well. But people call us looking for authorization, and it's completely out of our hands right now. The Lance system would give us a little bit more leeway in that, and we do look forward to that.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Laverty?
I had a quick one.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Deckert, and then Mr. McKim.
I was just going to ask, the pandemic, how it's affecting speed, traffic. Is it normal for? I know you've not been here forever, but is it normal, slower? What's going on?
We always count our operations numbers, so I've had the benefit of past records. We've been comparing it to the last few years, and actually in January and February of this year, for both of those months, we were about 70% higher numbers than in the past, which was great. But then, of course, things started to slow down. And the worst month that we saw as far as traffic counts at our airport was in April. We were down 70%. Then we kind of smoothed out for the few months after that between 60 and 50% downturn. But then in August, we were only down 40%. And we see those numbers starting to trend back up. And what that phenomena is being attributed to is a bump in corporate aviation. We think that's going to private corporate aviation. We think that's going to be the first segment of commercial aviation to return because of the obvious benefits of that. It's a private plane of some sorts, 10, 15 seats, maybe even a little bit less. And if you've got a company has to send some important folks and they have to be someplace, and you have the wherewithal to put them on a private chartered aircraft and separate them from the masses that kind of keep your employees safe, we see a lot of companies opting for that. August was really as far as corporate goes, it was a very busy month for the Monroe County Airport. And on our Facebook, I posted an article that was on the IBJ speaking to just that yesterday.
Thank you.
Any other questions or yeah, Mr. McKim?
Yeah, Mr. Labrador, I was wondering if you could just give us a real quick update on the status of the property.
The 55-acre property?
Yes.
So that's still trudging along. We had hoped to make a big push with that this year as part of our FAA Airport Improvement Program, but that got sidetracked because of a project. It was an emergency project that we brought forward to you for Taxiway Bravo. Some regulations had changed where we distanced some of our hold short lines on the taxiways in relation to the runway. It was an emergency project that jumped to the top of the list, so it pushed some big engineering work that was going to take place on that parcel. So for 2020, we haven't been able to do very much with that this year. It's on the list for next year, and we think that should be the final engineering for that before we can move forward and actually start moving some earth out there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wiltz?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I had a question. You mentioned the farming operation that's going on out there and needing to do some fertilization on those fields. And I'm just curious, I'm not a farmer. I don't think you're a farmer. So in that context, are you considering like consulting with like the soil and water conservation folks or anybody on maybe like some organic low application kind of things on that property?
That's an excellent question, and perhaps something I could provide some more literature on, because we do partner with that office and they've been extremely helpful with us and our tenant farmers in promoting the latest soil conservation techniques. And in fact, we have two farmers, and one of them was, I'm gonna, please forgive me if I get it wrong, but they were kind of like in 2018, they were awarded Conservation Farmer of the Year. So that office has been very fun to work with. I've been over there for some meetings where they've kind of enlightened me on some of the most recent conservation techniques. And we're doing a lot to control erosion. Our farmers have been very responsible, taking care of our airport property. We've written that into the contract. They have a list of requirements and soil testing that has to occur every few years, this is one of those years. And when we get those results back, that's going to tell us exactly how much investment we have to make with the fertilizer at the beginning of 2021.
Oh, great. I'm really glad to hear that because I like the partnering of different agencies and departments. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just a general comment, not necessarily related to your budget, but certainly realize and see the great value that we have in our airport as an economic development tool for the community, and appreciate all the work that you've done there. One thing I wanted to mention, though, is that this summer during the COVID-19 shutdown and all of that, we found, my family and my daughter and I found the airport to be a great recreational area too. And we would go out there and watch the planes from time to time and take her out there. That was just a lot of fun. So anybody who's interested in aviation and, just flying and all of that stuff, we have just a great venue for that here in Monroe County, and a really neat place. It's free, totally free. You don't have to pay anything to access any of that and see it. So one question I did have is, do you ever see any opportunities? I know this is kind of a crazy environment right now for aviation and flying. Do you ever see any opportunities in the future where we could return commercial flights into our airport here locally?
Yeah, I think that's it's a very interesting idea. Some people will flat out tell you right off the bat, it'll never come back. When you think about maybe the traditional legacy air carriers, and those are usually a difficult sell. Those routes like ours from perhaps Bloomington to Chicago on United or Delta, the airlines look for the airports to subsidize them and kind of secure that first year or two where things are very uncertain. And I've talked to some other airports in the country here in the last week, and due to COVID, actually, they're suddenly open to some non-traditional routes. And one of the reasonings behind that is a lot of their big routes, especially for the legacies, where they are heavily based on the eastern and western seaboards, those places are all shut down. No one's flying out of those large cities, and they've got all this air crew and aircraft sitting on the ground, and they're trying to come up with some new routes that they probably would have overlooked in the past. So there might be some opportunity there right now, but they're kind of selling those routes. They're looking for a lot of money up front to be put up by the host airport. So I don't think something like that would be a good situation for us. However, there's a new genre of airline kind of popping up in the last 5 to 10 years. And it's like these, what they kind of call these boutique airlines. One of them is called Jet Suite X, and they've been very successful. And it's kind of a private jet. It's got about anywhere from 20, 15 seats in it, and they'll fly a direct route between two smaller cities that do get a lot of travel in between, something like the Southwest model, but a much smaller plane. And it's a very, very affordable ticket as well. And they don't have a lot of overhead. They don't really use a main passenger terminal. They just kind of fly out of a very simple box hangar. You drive up, there's a very, simple lounge, maybe a Keurig machine or something like that. And then when the plane shows up, there's a little red carpet. You get on, there's no assigned seats, and then it would be a direct route to someplace. You wouldn't have the benefit of, walking off, ramp A4 at O'Hare and then walking over to B3 and connecting right away. You would just get out at another box style hangar at some airport and you would kind of be on your own. But they're doing that. They're pretty heavy on the West Coast, Jet Suite X. And it's basically it's a direct flight to your destination, but the tickets for like, San Francisco to Palm Springs, they're like $300 on a small jet. And a lot of people are eating that up. And I may or may not have reached out to those guys to see if they'd be interested. Haven't got a lot of traction yet, but I think something like that in the future is what you're going to be seeing. A lot of smaller to mid-sized communities, especially like a college community like us. I think a route to Chicago or even Washington, D.C. due to some of the DoD influence we have in the community could make a lot of sense.
No, I think that's terrific, and I appreciate that update and any efforts that you have going forward on that. Let's make the most out of this great economic development tool that we have here in the community. So thanks for all the work that you're doing on that front.
My pleasure. It's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions or comments for Mr. Laverty? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the budget.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, so I've received a few requests for a short break here. And so we'll do a recess until 7:05 p.m. It's 6:56 right now, according to my clock. So a little less than 10 minutes, if that's okay with everybody. And then we'll reconvene at 7:05. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we are reconvened. And up next, we have our clerk's office.
We do. Council.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are they here? Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0001, General Fund Clerk. Personnel $1,821,978. Supplies $35,000. Services $164,840. Capital 0 for a total budget of $2,021,818.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. We have Monroe County Clerk Nicole Brown with us tonight. Clerk Brown, is Ms. Martin joining you?
Ms. Martin is watching you by television this evening and cheering us on. I gave her the night off. Ms. Terry Bowman is here with me tonight. And good evening, council members.
So we do not need to get Ms. Bowman added as she's there with you on your line.
She is socially distanced from me, but can see and hear everything.
Great. Well, welcome, Clerk Brown. Please feel free to give us your presentation when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. It has been my honor and privilege to serve as Monroe County Clerk since March of 2016. And in that capacity, this is the 5th time that I have presented before council with my proposed budget, and my first in the midst of a pandemic. I believe that this is my first real opportunity to thank the council and commissioners on behalf of my entire office for your efforts to ensure that we were paid during the emergency closings. Because of Monroe County government's generosity, it was a privilege to be able to allow most of my office employees to work remotely so that they could keep themselves and their families safe. Still, I would be remiss in not continuing to put you in gentle remembrance that much of what we do cannot be done from home. For example, no matter how hard you try, it is not possible to oversee 2 presidential elections remotely in the midst of a pandemic. When the governor and secretary of state authorized the no excuse request for absentee ballots by mail for the primary presidential election, it was my team that stepped up to ensure that every Monroe County voter was sent an application in the mail. It is no surprise to me that my talented colleagues did this because they are proud to serve you and every citizen of Monroe County. So you can imagine how disheartened I was when reading the August 23rd publication of 2020's Best Places to Work in Bloomington to not find Monroe County government listed anywhere among them. It came as a shock to me and may or may not have for the hardworking Monroe County government employees who give their efforts to you each and every workday. And yet when I sign the payroll claims for the people who work in my office, I am reminded that their gifts and talents are not acknowledged commensurately in the place where it counts most, especially in a pandemic, that being their paychecks. I am proud to announce that in the past 365 days, including but not limited to the emergency closing in Monroe County, my office returned a combined total of $115,837.27 to Monroe County government's general fund for you to use with no restrictions, and that these monies were recovered with no expense to Monroe County's general fund. And with respect to most of the clerk's budgets, we stand proud to do our part and work within the same parameters as those that were appropriated last year. And where we have requested an increase, our requests have not exceeded the aforementioned $116,000 in recovered monies for Monroe County. With that, I welcome your questions and your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Brown. Any questions or comments for our clerk on the general fund budget presentation? I had met with Ms. Brown prior to or appreciate the invitation to get together and discuss the budget, and that was all very helpful. So I feel very prepared and informed on this. I don't have any questions. Okay, well, if there are no questions, then we will do a roll call vote to approve the clerk's office general fund budget, please.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Not present.
Not present. Motion passes unanimously.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1119-0000 Clerk's Perpetuation. Personnel category $63,860. Supplies $1,575. Services $49,415. Capital 0. For a total budget of $114,850.
Second.
Okay.
Council members, I would just want to put you in remembrance that we continue to diligently monitor this fund, though it has dwindled in the years since I first came to you as clerk. That's due to the advent of electronic filing. We only spend out of that fund what is rock bottom necessary to maintain the records that are statutorily required by the clerk. And I would respectfully just ask that you approve our request to maintain at the same level. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the budget.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1215-0010, Election Fund Voter Registration. Personnel category $130,022. Supplies $3,000. Services $21,100. Capital 0 for a total budget of $154,122.
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, this too is a budget where we are proud to have made every effort to not request more than we absolutely needed to, and stayed where we could, kept the lines static where we could. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, comments for the clerk? Yes, Ms. Munson.
Yes, Clerk Brown, think the public would be most interested in this particular budget, as well as the upcoming election board budget. But these budgets, do they pertain to an election year next year?
Thank you, Councilor Munson. We will be in an off year. And as I prepared these two budgets, we looked back at 2017 in an effort to make comparisons with respect to our request. I was prepared to speak to that more in the election budget, but I'm happy to address that now. The difference between 2021 and 2017, there's a significant difference, and that would be the completion of the 2020 census. Typically, we use our off-election year to replenish supplies that were expended in our biggest elections, that being the presidential elections, and we want to get ourselves back in good standing before we oversee the county elections in 2022. And we will, of course, do that in 2021. However, it's also incumbent upon us, with the completion of the census, once the federal and state governments have redrawn the congressional and state district lines, that we also reevaluate and redraw Monroe County's voting precincts. Just as our elections require the bipartisan teams with which you're familiar through that process, we will be required to hire bipartisan teams for this process. And with the Monroe County government's cap on the amount of compensatory time, taking it down to 40 hours from 60, this will also necessitate some overtime for some of my employees, as this will be done in addition to working on the voter list maintenance. I'm hopeful that I made that make sense for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that information.
Any other questions or comments on the voter registration fund budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote to accept the budget, please.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Council, I move to open discussion and review Fund 1215-0062 Election Fund Election Board. Personnel, $98,367. Supplies, $27,500. Services, $126,000. Capital, $0. For a total budget of $251,867.
Second.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And so I tried to give the best possible explanation I could in terms of why I have asked for more compared to the 2017 budget. I believe I've asked for a little more than $41,000. And again, that is because we are going to have to hire those bipartisan teams to help us with that. And as you know, with us being in the election budget cycle, whatever we don't use rolls over. But I genuinely made every effort to keep costs down so that I put myself in a position where I can meet my needs without having to come back to you for additional appropriations, but also adequately address the needs that we're going to have in 2021. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. McKim.
Thank you very much, Clerk Brown. I was just wondering if you could remind us what the machine precinct, et cetera, line was, and what the voting machine custodian line is for this budget.
Okay, please bear with me. Let me get to that fund. Okay, the precinct custodian, that voting machine is our vendor, and that would be B&L. I want to gently put you in remembrance that we used to work with a more expensive vendor to help us address our TSD issues. And we went with a vendor who substantially reduced the amount of money to help us maintain our voting equipment and help us with the technological part as we oversee elections.
And then the line labeled machine, precinct, etc.
And that is the money that we pay to our voting equipment vendor, Hart InterCivic. I'm sure you know how much they have done for us and continue to do for us. And in fact, having them here with this election, I have actually requested that they stay a bit longer to help us do our post-election audit with our new equipment so that the county can be reassured that our equipment counts and tallies as it should. So we pay annual fees to them, even in the off-election year, which spreads it out over those 4 years. I'm hopeful I've made that make sense to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm also glad that we're doing an audit, post-election audit.
Yeah.
I thought you might be.
Clerk Brown, I wanted to check in on this year and where things are. We've been seeing some things about poll worker recruitment. Can you kind of give us an update on where things stand? We got a really big election coming up. How are things looking on your end of things with poll worker recruitment?
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Spoonmore, for giving me an opportunity to address that. For the safety of the community, as you know, we condensed polling sites during the primary. And so we didn't use as many poll workers. We didn't put as many of our workers for the county or as many poll workers, out there to help run the election because we ran with 7 polling sites. As many of you may know, the Secretary of State and the Governor have asked us to prepare for a full election. My election board, who I believe is on attendance as attendees on the call, in case you want to hear from them and you want to unmute them, we just, in a work session yesterday, finalized 28 polling sites. Regrettably, we lost a couple, Meadowwood, because obviously it's a nursing home. One of the churches that I dearly hate to lose because they have been so good to us. Another church that I just found out yesterday. So we're down to 28 polling sites. My preference would have been to have something in the 30s following the CDC's guidelines for having more polling sites in the middle of a pandemic. To your direct question about poll workers, we are incredibly, incredibly fortunate. I get emails each and every day, as does my election supervisor, Karen Wheeler, from a lot of people who saw what we advertised in the paper begging for poll workers. So we are maintaining that list with the benefit of our incredible recruiters, Orion Staff and Pamela Samples. I want to give a big shout out to them. I've got high school people stepping up to help us. And just, we are really, really fortunate that people are responding to that. Now, having said that, the teams do have to be bipartisan, and I seem to be getting a lot more emails and interest from Democratic recruits than Republican recruits. So a big shout out to William Ellis and anybody within the sound of my voice. We do need those bipartisan teams and would be grateful for them to step up. We will find a place for them. This is going to be very, very busy. Thank you.
Okay, and if TSD could also allow Mr. Turner and Ms. Vanderweel and there are election board representatives, I think it'd be great since this is that budget, and it'd be great to have them here present. I may have some more questions, but Ms. Welts, did you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what we were just discussing with the poll workers. And I'm glad to hear that you've got some a good level of response. It's my understanding that from the high schoolers market, if they are, if they're under 18, so they can't vote. If they're 17, they can work at a poll, and they don't have a declared party and can be utilized in either a Republican or Democratic capacity. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Councilwoman. And as a matter of fact, we will take a 16-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old. I can't think of her last name right now, but her name is Miss Lila, and she is willing to work for us at Burgoon, which is a very remote polling site. And so the very nice thing is if they have good grades and they get that signature from the principal, and we pay, so there's an opportunity for them to earn some money, and I will sign any government teacher's credit slip if they can get some credit for their civics. I'm happy to sign off on that, and so thank you for allowing me to request that. You might have somebody who would want to work for me in your house, and I would be oh so grateful. Give them a little shout out from the clerk. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. McKim.
Yes, and I just wanted to thank you and your members of the election board and your staff for all the work that you've done on accessibility of the polling places. I mean, I've heard obviously from community activists, some other people interested in accessibility, that the election board has really stepped up and put a lot of effort into making sure that our polling places are accessible to all. So I just want to congratulate you and thank you for that.
So, Councilwoman McKim, I want to thank you for acknowledging that. And just because you brought that up, I never want anybody in Monroe County to think that that was not a priority for Monroe County polling sites. There are a number that I inherited from previous county clerks, and I wouldn't know if they were good enough for them. It stood to reason that I could continue to use those polling sites. But some of the more remote ones, I took the liberty of getting in my own car and driving out and taking a look and taking pictures. And we were looking at the ADA guidelines and looking at the HAVA, which is Help America Vote Act, the standards. All of them haven't been quite brought up. Those checklists haven't quite been brought up to 2020, 2021. But we are using what we have and working with everybody to ensure that every voter has an opportunity to experience the election day with dignity, and they don't need assistance unless they ask us for assistance, and whatever it takes to make that happen, as long as I can fit it in my budget without having to come back to you and ask for additional appropriations, we are already doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Iverson.
Yeah, Mr. President, I wonder if this is not a bad time to hear from our election board members. It looks like Ms. Vanderweel has her hand raised.
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
So, I mean, I echo what Nicole said, and yes, we've been working quite hard, and we know this is going to be in a big election, and we're certainly hoping that everything will go smoothly. One of the things that I would like to reiterate is that if taxpayers want to save themselves some money on our election board budget, and that is to do things in a timely fashion. In the spring, we had probably 3/4 of our mail applications came in the last week. We had to hire extra staff and personnel to make sure that we got those out in on time. There's certainly no reason at this point to not get those mail-in applications if you qualify to do so. Get them in now and then send your ballots in immediately. The ballot isn't going to change like it does in the primary, when people were concerned that they would disenfranchise themselves as far as the presidential vote because it changed every day. But everything, once we get the information from the feds, will be fixed. So get your applications in and get your ballots back quickly. That'll solve some of the mail issues. The mail is slow, but it's still being delivered, and so forth. We'd rather not have to hire a lot of workers right at the end to get those things done. So, and then just to also remind voters that there are timely deadlines, and you don't want to disenfranchise yourself by getting those in late.
Great. Thank you. And there's something I wanted to mention. I know that election security right now is so critical and so important, and I appreciate the election board and Clerk Brown's commitment to these secure elections here in Monroe County. Do you all feel like we are positioned to be in good shape for the upcoming election? And so I'll just let you answer that question first, and I've got another follow-up after that.
Yeah, this is Hal. I believe we are in good shape as far as that's concerned. We looked at a whole panoply of issues in trying to prepare for this season's voting. As the ADA, we went to the City Committee on Accessibility to get their help, and we went to Stone Belt to actually get clients to go out and try some of these places. As far as COVID security is concerned, where we often voted in meeting rooms, we're now voting in gymnasiums in the same facilities. In one case where we used to vote in a meeting room in a church, we're clearing out the entire worship area and using that in addition. So we're doing everything possible to keep this safe and to allow good social distancing wherever people might have to queue up in a chilly November, possibly, hopefully it's sunny and warm, but we'll see. And as far as the other security issues are concerned, this is a very unsettled time, and we are taking a look at those issues as well.
Thank you.
Councilman Spoonmore, may I please follow up with what Mr. Howe said to remind the voting community that with respect to the security of the ballots, we have 2 padlocks in a motion detector on the room that houses the ballots from the time that they start coming in, those voted ballots, until we are able to start tallying. A Democratic representative has 1 key. The Republican representative has the other key. They cannot go into that room unless 2 people are there at all times. It's always a bipartisan team if there needs to be a reason to access the ballot room. So please take advantage of the opportunity to vote early. However you vote, make a decision and make your plan to vote early. Thank you.
Yes. Great. Well, I just want you all to know before we take a vote here, I want you all to know that we are supportive of everything you're doing. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to have good, effective, efficient elections here in Monroe County, and keep us posted. If we want to make sure that you have all the resources you need to be able to deliver a successful election here this November. I know it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a lot of work, and we're behind you on that. So
thank you so much, Mr. Spoonmore. As I promised you when we met, I will do everything that I can to not have to ask you for additional appropriations, but pandemics are expensive. If I have to come before you, my plan would be to come and ask to cross lines rather than ask you for additional monies. And I'm hopeful that that will meet with your approval. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Munson, did you have a question?
Yes, I want to continue with a security question. And before I ask that, I think we heard some incredibly great information about the organizations and institutions in our community that are stepping up to host polling sites. And I think we have to be just very, very grateful for their efforts. But
absolutely.
But my question about security is, if people wish to take their absentee ballot to the clerk's office, is there a way for them to safely do this while social distancing? Is there a drop-off box that they can use?
Councilman Munson, thank you for the opportunity to address that. We learned this year because I know that that's popular when you turn on your national media, the concept of drop boxes. Drop boxes are not legal in the state of Indiana. So we will even be sealing off our own, the slot that allows mail to be delivered to Election Central when we're closed over the weekend. That will even be blocked off so that anyone who wants to return a ballot must do so in person, or their attorney, in fact, a person who lives in their household, they can sign an affidavit returning it on behalf of the voter. So what I would say to someone concerned about dropping it off in person is to call ahead, call from your car. If you see someone voting, and you want to sit in your car for a minute until you can come in. But as Mr. Howell already advised, we will be monitoring the social distancing and making things as safe as we humanly possibly can, with the generosity of the Secretary of State providing us PPE for our poll workers and our staff, and encouraging the public to also have PPE when they come to us to make that transition as smooth and safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
Yeah, I would, you can add a bonded courier to that list of people who can drop off the ballots. And there are petitions to the Secretary of State's office to add some people to that list, but we don't have any information about whether that will happen or not. Obviously, we'll let people know as soon as we do have that information. But calling ahead to see if there are lines, you won't have to stand in the election line if early voting is going on. We'll have a separate line for those people to be able to access. But you can check and see if there are lines and so forth. And again, we'll be making sure people socially distance and trying to keep people as safe as possible.
Thank you.
I've got one more question. I'm sorry to keep going on here and I know we want to get moving on, but Ms. Brown, can you talk about some of the CARES reimbursements that your department has seen as a result of the COVID-19 situation, and how that's shaping up and what that's looking like?
So thank you, Councilman Spoonmore. We received the same email that everyone else did, requesting that we monitor our COVID-related expenses, which we did following the instructions of the auditor's office. Simultaneously, the Secretary of State had opportunities for a grant. We did not apply for that because the county had been so generous to us, telling us to submit our expenses and they would be reimbursed. It was only after the deadline passed that we realized that election expenses were not included in what the county was going to be reimbursed back. This is an opportunity to give a shout out to the Secretary of State's office, who, when my chief deputy called their office and explained what happened, they opened a window for us to submit for the grant. And they are considering our $86,000 in expenses. I have not received word yet that has been approved, but we at least got in the window after we learned from the auditor's office that we were not going to be able to be reimbursed. We continue to maintain and monitor our COVID-related expenses, and we will do the very best we can once we know that we have received something, and I'm hopeful that we will. Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, and please keep us posted on that as well, too, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help out as well.
Certainly.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, we will do a roll call vote now to accept the election fund, election board budget.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Sorry, yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you so very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Didn't
you.
Have a good
call
evening.
me. They didn't call me.
Ms. Hawk, Ms. Hawk is
Sorry,
here.
we didn't know you were there.
I didn't know you came
Here.
back. Sorry.
I just came right in that back door. Like,
Did you want to record a vote?
yes, I do. I heard most of it, and I've studied it. I am trying to vote on the other side, the other budget I'm on, the other meeting. I need to be 2 people tonight.
All right, Counselor Hawk, what's your vote?
Yes.
All right.
All right, motion passed unanimous. Thank you.
Very good.
A heartfelt thank you to you all.
Thank you, Clerk Brown. Have a great evening. And that will conclude all of our budgets to review this evening for the clerk's office. We'll now move on to our planning department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0079, General Fund Planning. Personnel, $621,385. Supplies, $8,606. Services, $33,100. Capital, 0, for a total budget of $663,091.
Second.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm not sure I'm on this. Okay, this is Larry Wilson, the planning director. I'm here tonight with Jackie Nestor-Jellin, our assistant director. Our budget is basically the same as it's been for the last couple of years. We're not asking for any increases in any line. And as you note, we returned a significant amount of funds last year, reverted. So we try to be very fiscally responsible in regard to spending our money. Just to bring you up to date on some of the things that are going on, we are in the process of updating our zoning ordinance. That's been somewhat delayed because of difficulties having public meetings in the age of COVID, and our desire to have as much public involvement as possible. But we're still working on that. The other big initiative that's going on is we're going to online permitting along with the building department and health department and other county departments. So individuals will be able to file applications online and submit them electronically. Again, this was a situation that we it was accelerated. We've been working on it, but with the COVID situation, we moved ahead on this and are in the process of implementing that. So that's going to be a big improvement overall. As the assessor spoke earlier about how busy the building situation is, we are somewhat ahead of last year's numbers as far as fees. And Jackie has that information if she wants to go ahead and present that.
Thanks, Larry. I'll just keep it really brief. I know it's been a long meeting for everyone, but we keep track of our month-to-month monies that we collect. So from 2012 to 2020, we've been doing this. And so I just want to keep everyone up to date that from January to August of this year, we have updated totals. And we're about $4,000 ahead of where we were last year and about $11,000 above what the average has been for those preceding 8 years. So we're on track. We did submit similar estimated revenues that we had for last year, and we're anticipating meeting those revenues that we've had previous years this year.
Great, thank you. And so, yeah. Anything else?
I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Again, we're asking for this, other than the increases in salary that are fixed, our budget is the same as last year. I will note that we have combined, at some point fairly recently, we combined our travel and training budget. So it's somewhat larger than it used to be. And that's a budget that fluctuates somewhat because we do national level training for our staff. We have members of our staff that are members of the American Institute of Certified Planners. They are required to complete 32 hours of training every 2 years. And the best training is usually at national conferences. So typically, depending on where the conference is located, we'll have a fairly significant expenditure in 1 year and maybe not so much the next year. And so we try to balance that out by trying to register at the end of the year to like use some of the money from the budget for the next year. This year, the national conferences were all canceled. We were relying upon sort of online learning, which doesn't really work as well as going to a conference where you're dedicated to going to the meetings. But other than that, we've been working partially remote. And as far as I can tell, everything's going fine. We're not having any significant delays in processing permits. We're answering questions fairly promptly. And given the situation, I think it's gone remarkably well.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I saw Ms. Wiltz and then Mr. McKim and then Ms. Munson.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the new online permitting program. You said it's in being implemented. Do you have a timeline? Is it?
Yeah. I'll let Jackie address that. She took the lead on this as far as coordinating all of the county departments and setting up meetings with the vendors and getting approval for purchasing the system through the commissioners. So I'll let her handle that. And she deserves credit for a lot of this too.
Thanks, Kate. So the electronic permitting software, we are meeting with the vendor twice a week, and it's actually for 4 departments. So planning, building, health, and highway. We're starting with building, and we're hoping to do like a hybrid opening, having some of the building departments permits live, hoping for end of this month, if that's possible, early next month. They're moving us really quick, which we appreciate. There has been some coordination even with the city. They're also doing electronic permitting software. So we're trying to make sure that our data, our GIS data, is in good working order before we can go live, obviously. And then it would be a hybrid approach until we can get the full system up and running, which they're estimating at this point being April of next year. But I'm hopeful that if we, as internal staff, can move on it a little bit quicker, they're able to push us forward a little bit faster than that. So
That's fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Actually, I was going to hit on the same issue, and most of my comments and questions have already been addressed. I do want to echo what Mr. Wilson said and give Ms. Jelen kudos. She really took the lead, not just in planning, but countywide in making sure that this happened right when we needed it most, as the possibility of extended work at home or remote work became a real possibility. So I can congratulate you, and yeah, thanks for doing this. This is really exciting. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of constituents that I talk to, people who are developers or who use the services of planning and building, are really excited about it. So this is great. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. McKim, council and commissioners.
Great. Ms. Munson, I think you had a question, and then Mr. Iverson.
Yes. I wanted to follow up about the revenue that you receive, and it was good to hear that this has increased compared to previous years. Where does this revenue go when you receive it?
All our revenue goes directly into the general fund.
To the general fund. Does that make it hard to track?
We just report it and turn it over to the general fund.
Okay.
And then our budget is from the general fund. So they're really.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's it's an outflow and an inflow.
So, but it's good. It's good to have the report about what you've received. So thank you.
Well, again, I would like to thank the council for your support in the past as far as allowing us to increase staff hours, allowing us to raise salaries somewhat. Having a 40-hour-a-week staff has been essential during this time period in order to provide the coverage both remotely and in the office. So again, thank you for your support in the past.
Mr. Wilson, I appreciate you having been in communication with us over the last year or so regarding compensation of planners, and that's been really important, I think, and had a big impact on our decision to enter into this engagement with WIS to do a county-wide review of classification levels. And yeah, we want to make sure that our departments are set up for success and we're able to recruit and retain high quality, talented employees for these that have these specialized types of skills that are required for things like planning. So I'm very hopeful, and this encourages me that we'll be able to continue to advance that through this WIS study that we're going to be doing here this year. Mr. Iverson, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I think I wanted to also echo what Councilwoman Munson was saying, that $11,000 ahead of an 8-year average is fantastic, and that's really great. And I also wanted to just say that I think a lot of people are very excited about the CDO, and I think a lot of the great work that you've put into that is really paying off. It just was really unfortunate that COVID is hitting, but I think people remain excited about that and about the potential that has for our county. So I look forward to continuing to support that, and please continue to reach out. I know a lot of us are involved, but we're very eager to help support that.
Thank you.
Eric, can I answer Cheryl's question about the funding?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so not just planning, but building and each department across the county, they turn their money into the auditor's office once a month, and they have their own receipt line. So we know exactly how much planning, building each group takes in, and that is presented to you guys as miscellaneous revenue to the general fund.
So, thank you, Auditor Smith. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the Planning Department General Fund budget.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. And up next is our Surveyor's Office.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0006, General Fund Surveyor. Personnel, $158,755. Supplies, $550. Services, $6,500. Capital, $0. For a total budget of $165,805.
Second.
All right, we have Monroe County Surveyor Tron Enright Randolph joining us tonight. Thank you, sir, for being here. Please proceed.
Yes, it's my pleasure. After hearing Nicole Brown, I do want to state it's an honor to be serving the citizens of Monroe County as county surveyor. And it's a luxury that this is my 15th budget proceeding. So I'm well experienced now.
After you get 10 years, I think you can say you got
You're a
some
veteran.
expertise with budgeting. And quickly, I will. I submitted a flat budget. I want to bring a little attention to the training/travel. This year was definitely not a year where we could utilize that fund, since a lot of the training opportunities and a lot of those opportunities are conferences and such, just were canceled this year. One question that might present itself is the elected educational fund. I am allowed to use it. I am not certain about extending that to other employees. It's something I followed really closely. So I'm definitely going to double check that. I could have saved $200, but outside of that, I haven't used the fund. I use the training fund personally, and it's a great benefit. So I do take full advantage of that. This fund was intended to utilize our 5 complimentary tickets to the ESRI conference, which each ticket's about $1,500 to $1,600 in value, and offer other educational experience, not just to the surveyor staff, but to everyone that we kind of interact with throughout the county. So just that is one of the more significant changes on our general budget, and everything else is the same. So I can entertain any questions. I'm going to do my best not to put both budgets in one discussion.
Any questions or comments, Mr. McKim? Would you like to start?
Yes. What is the status of the professional surveyor position? Is it vacant right now, or?
Yes. So kind of as we discussed, and I was able to gain your support with creating a part-time line so we could have some overlap with the professional surveyor that was here full-time, and with the new hiree. At that time, the COVID-19, the pandemic happened. We kind of shut down county offices, did a hiring freeze. And then I talked to a couple applicants. I have one more follow-up applicant that I need to reach out to. It quickly has 18 years of technical experience at the university level, and then 12 years in various engineering, surveying, and construction work. My hope is that we can entice them to come. I feel like this is going to potentially be a longer conversation. As I stated at the very beginning, as we created this position, that we started at the bottom dollar. Any private surveyor can come in and pretty much make the 3-year mark, even the 10-year mark, not, in the private sector. So it's been a little tricky, but it's currently vacant. We weren't able to rehire that position. When I talked to a couple other applicants, their workload increased, and the idea of moving away from where they currently live and resettling in Monroe County wasn't as enticing through the pandemic. So that fund is going to be reverted back to County General, so it's going to provide a little relief. My discussion with McKim earlier this year was to potentially leave that vacant if I can't get this last applicant on board, and then kind of discuss this moving forward, and potentially seeing what we can do to really entice a professional surveyor to come work for the county. There is extreme value in having a professional surveyor at the county. One of the first things we did immediately was work with county legal during a land swap. And I love to use this as an example. It's an extension to a trail that was going through some private, or actually we got a old railroad, vacant railroad corridor, and we swapped that, and it's official. There's still some areas that aren't
fully completed, so I'm going to stay away from talking that. But the one with Indiana limestone, we were able to do a land swap. County legal had reached out to us to kind of just look at the document. We were able to plot that out. And the way that the deed read is it goes to the edge of their property, which was a creek bed. And then they wanted to give us 50 foot off the edge of their property, which some of it was still in the creek. And we were like, this doesn't work. So McKim joined us on the walk. This was in 2016. And we just kind of walked the trail. We were able to kind of provide some documents to kind of show where this trail could potentially go. Brought it back to the office, overlaid it with some GIS aspect floodplains and things like that, and was able to achieve a swap where we could put a permanent trail. And that was immediate value. Outside of that, we've been extensively utilized with having a professional here at the office with county legal, planning, highway, the whole gambit, you name it, parks, commissioners. So the value is there. Getting someone willing to come in might be the challenge. So that's kind of the take on the position currently, and the pandemic has not helped at all. So,
thank you. I remember that walk and that trail well. I think we had half the legal staff there too, and you don't have to sell me on the value of the position. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council members on the surveyor's general fund budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the surveyor's general fund budget.
Councillor Hawk,
Yes.
Councillor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councillor McKim,
Yes.
Councillor Ivey,
Yes.
Councillor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councillor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Great.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1202-0000 Surveyor's Corner Perpetuation. Personnel, $50,290. Supplies, $6,550. Services, $29,450. Capital, $15,000. For a total budget of $101,290.
Second.
Okay, great. So one thing I'd like to kind of make sure is very clear is this is a non-reverting dedicated fund. So any dollars amount that we don't spend reverts back into this fund. And we never aim to spend down any line if we don't have to, except for the personnel. We'd like to have someone there the full year. One thing I wanted to bring attention to, well, it doesn't jump off the page as much is in 2019, the field assistant line happened to kind of get budgeted large because we approved the survey technician, but we didn't actually get that in place. So it looks a lot cleaner on your workbook. I got it print off here. So I wanted to make sure that we knew that we kind of over budgeted through that year. So that's why the dollars amount might be a little confusing. Outside of that, I do think this budget hearing is kind of unique. It's kind of a hybrid of office updates, department updates, and budget requests. So with our archiving line, I'd like to bring attention to that we have tens of thousands of documents online, and we were able to do that before the pandemic occurred and make that information available, which has been very helpful to a lot of different people. We get about 20 to 40 hits on our utility app that kind of serves as an index to access these documents, which basically means that a lot of people have built this into their day-to-day operations, which is great. So now people are using more information. And surveyors is our target audience. So they're out there accessing documents to really make informed decisions on the field. Very important. We aren't having the best success with our corner documentation program. So we left that in place because if one surveyor goes through the documentation program, it could yield, roughly $1,000 to $2,000. So we don't really need too many people to go through the program to kind of spend down that amount. And we also kind of have that as a perpetuation services thing too, that we're somewhat exploring, especially not having a professional surveyor in office right now, is potentially getting some service agreements out there so we can still meet the new standards we had set in this office. We left the equipment line there too. It's same situation. We didn't have the professional in-house to really do the evaluation to make sure it was something we were really needing. It's a Triumphant 1M GPS base station. Basically, it allows us to connect with more satellites. It strengthens our signal. It allows us to work in more remote areas. So it could have a very overall positive effect on our field operations and things of that nature. But we're not going to go and just buy anything willy-nilly. And since we didn't really have the proper vetting of that equipment, we just went ahead and budgeted again for this year to leave us the opportunity next year. And again, it's all non-reverting. So if we don't spend it, it goes back into the corner perpetuating fund. So our intent isn't to spend down any line if not needed. So I'm here for any questions.
Yes, Mr. McKim.
What's the cash balance of the corner fund?
Ooh, I will say it's a little over 140,000, but we fully over the years have continued to bring it to the council's attention that we are looking to do full boundary perpetuation surveys as we are currently doing our own boundary perpetuation work. And we have been trying to stockpile that so we can actually get out there. Some of our coordination will be with the assessor and auditor's office because there's some more problematic areas out there in the county. And what we're doing is a systematic approach. So we're in Clear Creek and we're going to build our way out. The service agreements will be more kind of where needed. But this just allows us to continue to really move the perpetuation of the county forward.
Okay. Well, I was just really asking to make sure that the budget was supportable, and it clearly is. So,
yes, the budget is definitely sustainable. We're kind of hitting right there as far as what we are receiving in. We're a little high this year because of the equipment, but outside of that, we're right on par. So we will be able to kind of hopefully stockpile 10,000 to 20,000 per year, which then we plan to light contracts with in the future.
Yeah. All right. Any other look, Michelle, did you have something?
Yes. As of today's date, the current cash balance is $178,999.
Thank you. I was doing my best guess.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Munson.
Hello, Mr. Enright Randolph. I am interested in a couple things. There's a line that says geodetic coordinate. Right. And that you didn't use that term, but it increased in 2020 markedly from 1,150 to 20,000, and it's continuing to be 20,000 for next year. Could you talk more about this?
Yes, I guess I should have related what I was saying to the geodetic control line. That is the one that we pay the corner documentation program out of, which is a new trial program. And we did have one successful candidate go through it when we implemented it, and we have one more going through it currently. And just on the offerer, or he's the offeree, is like $1,150 just on the one. So if we actually get surveyors to participate in this, that will be spent down quite significantly. That is also the geodetic control line that we have for professional services too. So if we have a contract to do a boundary perpetuation, I'm actually reviewing a few different contracts that have been lit by other county surveyors across the state. That fund would be spent down pretty quickly. That fund right there, or that line right there, I like where it's at, but I don't want to increase it because the way that we had created the documentation program and worked with the commissioners to allow more ease to pay them, that it's dependent on what the fund balance is. And so if we move it up, then more people can go through the program, and then the whole fund could become unsustainable. So we tethered it to the budgeted amount that is available. So I feel like 20,000 is a safe number. We haven't even gotten close to that yet. So our hopes is that people actually take the opportunity to do this, and we don't have to actually require anything like this in an ordinance or such, because we really need to get a better grips on our section corners out there in the county that then pretty much is the framework of people's property rights. We had discussions just recently in our planning executive committee about how there's issues that arise and the county is pretty much, not able to intervene. But there are things that we can do, and perpetuating the county is one of them.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we do take a vote on the perpetuation fund budget? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote to accept the budget.
I don't. Okay. Sorry. Councilor McKim?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Councilor Munson?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
He's right there. Am I muted?
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Surveyor. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. All right, and we've got our final budget to review tonight. Our Parks Department. I believe Ms. Whitmer is here joining us. Hello.
Hello.
We'll have Councilmember Wiltz read the motion to open the budget.
Okay, Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0803 General Fund Parks. Personnel $971,681. Supplies $108,900. Services $99,300. Capital $0 for a total budget of $1,179,881.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Ms. Whitmer, please feel free to present your budget to us.
Well, excellent. I'm so glad that everyone's awake. We're 13th on the agenda and last, and everyone's the 7th inning stretch. Do it. Our services and supplies, we have a flat budget. Our personnel has gone down due to the 26 pays, and plus we have our naturalist position at year 1. So that's the general gist of our budget. But I do want to mention a couple things, if you don't mind, is the Parks Department had a master plan done of the Karst Athletic Complex this year, and we will be presenting that to the county commissioners and the county council. It is a long-term plan on renovations probably needed at the Karst Athletic Complex. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. That will be coming down the pike. I also do want to make aware that we are managing approximately over 500 acres. And some of that is the greenways, which is the Limestone Greenway and the Karst Farm Greenway. I talked to 2 engineers today, and the Karst Farm Greenway to Ellettsville, the bid should go out between January and March of 2021, and construction should start when the weather breaks in 2021. And I hope to have it completed, hopefully next year, if things go well with permitting and construction. So that's just an update on that. We're very excited to get attached to the town of Ellettsville. They're wonderful partners. We just love working with the Ellettsville group, and we just can't wait to hook up the Greenway to them, to Karst Farm Park, and eventually it'll get to Bloomington, all the way down to the B line into the Limestone Greenway. So we're very, very excited. Other than that, our budget is as is. Is there any questions?
Yes, any questions from council? Mr. McKim.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly, and congratulations on all your great work, particularly for that the connection to Ellettsville, which we're all so excited about having that open. What are all of the facilities at our parks open now, or what's the status, I guess, of our facilities?
All the parks are open, which is Karst Farm Park, Flatwoods Park, Will Detmer Park, like I said, Limestone Greenway, Karst Farm Greenway are open. Not every restroom facility is open due to COVID, and no drinking fountains are open. We are playing athletics, soccer, lacrosse is at the athletic complex. Our major tournaments have been canceled due to COVID, but right now Cutter Soccer is out there playing, and hopefully everything is going well. We've been in contact with the health department almost weekly, it seems, make sure that we're doing everything that we should be doing to keep the public safe.
Great, thank you.
And we do have about approximately $15,000 to $20,000 in COVID expenses this year. But with that, we'll be getting hands-free faucets in all the restrooms. So that we believe those kind of things are very important.
Great.
Mr. Decker?
Thank you very much for being here, and thanks for all the wonderful things. And my gosh, the Greenway is just awesome. But I had a question. It occurred to me as you were talking about renovations on Karst. Karst is, I believe, well older than me. Do you know how long we've had that as a park?
The park is actually, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the athletic complex, and I was like, I'm not sure how old you are. Actually, I can't remember how old Karst Farm Park, it is before my time.
Yeah.
But the athletic complex is rolling on 30 years without any renovations to it. So, not everything doesn't last forever. Lights don't last forever. Drainage doesn't last forever. Irrigation does not last forever. But the park itself is a wonderful park, Karst Farm Park, and we have thousands of visitors each year to the park.
Well, the fact that that trail just rolls right into there is just that. I said it last year, but it just staggers my mind that we have done that, and that's awesome.
Well, and we'll be improving the trailhead at Karst Farm Park with a grant from Duke Energy. So we're very excited about that. So when you get out of the car, you're going to have some more amenities there when you get out to go out to the trail.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Whitmer? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote to accept the budget.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wilkes,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Phew. Okay, council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1178-0000, Parks Non-Reverting Capital, Personnel 0, Supplies $10,000, Services $18,000, Capital $37,000 for a total budget of $65,000.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Any additional information you have for us on this budget, Ms. Whitmer?
Well, currently we only have $20,000 in cash, and if everything goes well next year, and we have more rentals, we usually have around $40,000 to $45,000 in rentals that come in here. So that equals about $65,000. The park board has no plans for this money right now because we just want to see where things are going. It's our piggy bank for emergencies and for equipment and fixing things like a roof leak or HVAC problems. So we just kind of want to save it just to see how things go next year.
All right, thank you. Any questions or any discussion? Seems pretty straightforward. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote to accept the budget as presented.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wilkes,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right. Well, that will conclude all of our Parks and Recreation Department budgets. Thank you, Ms. Whitmer. Thank you, Mr. Robertson, for joining us tonight. This concludes also our second day of budget workshops, and we will recess until tomorrow, Thursday, September 10th, 2020 at 5 p.m. here on Zoom. Yeah, and looks like Michelle has some.
I just want to say that we are ending exactly on the time that I had scheduled.
Hey, look at that.
Oh,
wow.
Exactly.
You're good.
Hey, that
8:20.
That makes
There you
two
go.
days in a row, right? 2 days in a
Yeah.
row?
Very nice.
So,
Yeah, Councilmember Hawk.
And in the meantime, the other meeting going on so close to my heart. Also residents were listened to by their BZA. So if you want to know where I was there with my friends and family for just a bit. So thank you for.
A lot of meetings going on tonight, and I know that there's some of us here who probably want to check out some other meetings that are currently going on right now. So
happy.
Yes.
we will we'll go ahead and recess until tomorrow, 5 p.m. and we'll see you all back here on Zoom. Take care. Have a good evening. Thank you to everybody. Good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
all.
good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.